Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel where the Force is family. I am Master Paul.
And I am Mando on fire.
All right, and so we decided to bring back the pre recorded videos because we didn't want you guys getting tired of us just doing live streams. We're still going to do live streams every Sunday, maybe the occasional midweek one, but pre recorded videos, that's going to be our bread and butter. And we have a somewhat interesting article to talk about. Now, admittedly, this is somewhat of an older article. It came out 4 weeks ago. But this article from the this is the one I want. The Diz Insider, Jedi Barriss Offee to appear in Star Wars Ahsoka. And of course, there's there, or at least as she appeared in Attack of the Clones. Now, before we go further, we do want to stress, we cannot stress this enough, this is a rumor. We are not reporting this as fact. This is a rumor. So as Overlord DVD says, be sure to take this with a grain of salt. So that being said, this is a somewhat short article. Let's get into it. Star Wars Ahsoka, a live-action series featuring Rosario Dawson, will feature a prominent character from the prequel films and Star Wars The Clone Wars. According to the Illuminati, don't know who that is, Barriss Offee, a Jedi Knight from the prequel era, will return in Ahsoka. Though the character played a major role in Star Wars The Clone Wars, this will be her first live-action appearance since... I'm going to butcher this name, so I'm not even going to try it, since this person portrayed her in Star Wars Attack of the Clones. To indicate that Lucasfilm will be casting a actress who is expected to appear as a lead character in the show. They're an aging woman in her 20s or 30s to play the role. In terms of the character, this is significant news, especially considering she and Ahsoka's fractured relationship during the Clone Wars. The show will likely explore this dynamic while also perhaps providing on their troubled history. So let's stop right there for a second. So Michael has seen more of the Clone Wars than I have. So Michael, would you like to just sort of give the Cliff Notes version of what exactly that article is talking about as far as their fractured relationship?
Yeah. So basically, for context, Ahsoka and Barris first meet in the second battles of Geonosis when they single-handedly took down the second droid foundry. In fact, they were even stuck in one of their super tanks and had to rely on each other to survive. They even had to go up against the Geonosian brain parasites when they went up against the clones that were infected. In fact, Barris was infected herself, and Ahsoka didn't want to kill her as a result. Now that kind of built up their relationship, but when came time for season 5 to come around, and you may have remembered the bombing of the Jedi Temple and how Ahsoka was framed for it, it was actually
Spoilers, by the way.
It was actually Barris who set her up. It was all Barris's fault, and it wasn't even until the very end where Anakin shows up to Barris's quarters and pretty much realizes what's going on.
Right. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of history there to go off of. And there's pretty much not much else to read here with the article. Following rumors, just confirming stuff that we know that was announced at the Disney Investor Day. So on a hunt for the Grand Admiral Thrawn, which we know from Mandalorian Season 2. Being developed by John and Dave, we know that. So really not much else to talk about here. But we do want to also mention that if this is true, again, we're reporting this as rumor, but if this is true, what could they do with Barriss Offee in this Ahsoka show? And also, where could Ahsoka... Let's start here. Where could Barriss have been between getting arrested in Season 5 of the Clone Wars and the Ahsoka show, which we are assuming takes place after Return of the Jedi? So where could she have been all this time? Because one of the things that I had always assumed is that somehow Vader found her imprisoned, or the Emperor found her and turned her into an Inquisitor, because we really don't know at least I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we really don't know exactly how many Inquisitors there were. So maybe Vader had found her and turned her into an Inquisitor. But now the Empire is gone. So, assuming she was an Inquisitor, now she has no Empire to fight for. So where does that leave her? So
So
what do you
funny
think,
you should
Michael?
bring that up. There was actually a very popular fan theory that if you remember this person
I think I know who
from
you're about.
the from Rebels, this I believe it was like this person.
The seventh
So
sister.
seventh sister. Now, obviously, we know better by now that the seventh sister is not Barriss Offee. But I bring this up because before her character was created, there was some fan art being developed by yeah that looked like this, where basically it shows Barriss had she turned to the dark side and become an Inquisitor, basically. And
Right.
so I wanted to point that out just because this isn't really anything new of the possible return of Barriss Offee, because we outright don't see her get unalive, but at the same time, all we really know is that she got arrested, and that's
Yes,
it.
exactly. We also don't know, by the way, that she even had a chance to become an Inquisitor. For all we know, the clones could have killed her in Order 66.
Hmm.
In fact, in Legends canon, at least, that's exactly what happened. She died in Order 66. So if they are indeed going to bring Barriss Offee into the Ahsoka show, they're definitely going to have to answer the question, basically, where has she been all this time? And kind of going along with that, because me personally, I'm a little bit curious, how would she react to her old master Luminara finding out that she's dead? Because, of course, they confirm in Rebels that she is dead. In fact, she was dead on that, I forget what that planet is. It's that one moon that the crew of the Ghost show up to because Kanan was trying to pawn off Ezra onto Luminara, assuming she was still alive,
Yeah,
have as a better master. But that's ultimately where they find that she's been long dead, and where they have their first encounter with the Grand Inquisitor.
yeah,
So at some point, I'm sure they're going to reveal that Barriss somehow found out that Luminara was dead.
yeah.
So basically, how could that have affected her?
Well, are we assuming that it would affect her at all? Because
I would
another thing
say
I kind of left out is that she set up the bombing because she had felt like the Jedi were getting corrupted by the war. And
yes,
so
and
that kind of makes you think, would she really care all that much about her former master?
I would say she may not want to admit it, but I would say at a certain level, like deep down inside her, yes. Just because that master apprentice relationship that they had before, of course, Barriss turned to the dark side, that's not something that you just toss away. Like
Hmm.
even Darth Vader still somewhat at least cared about Ahsoka. We see this in season 2 of Rebels, where just for that faintest moment, you see Vader's mask cut there and you see Anakin's eyes. And for the faintest moment, you see Anakin kind of coming through Darth Vader, especially right when Ahsoka says, I won't leave you again. So you do see that on some level, Vader still cared about Ahsoka, but then, of course, Vader came back and he's like, then you will die. So maybe on some deep level, despite, the crimes she committed and the reason why, she might still care at least a little bit about her former master.
Yeah. So, anyways, moving on to possible story arcs of the Ahsoka show if Barriss were to be a main character. Do you believe that she would be a main antagonist, or do you believe that she may have to play a smaller role? And if so, like, what do you think her role would be?
Well, we both know that I am an absolute sucker for a redemption story. So personally, I would like to see Ahsoka and Barriss team up from the standpoint of, at least from Barriss's point of view, I did you wrong. I realize that was wrong now, and now I'd like to fix it in however I can. But at the same time, I could also see them going the route of she stays evil and basically becomes the main antagonist for the show, leading to a very emotional confrontation between Ahsoka and Barriss, where ultimately Ahsoka has to kill Barriss.
Yeah. And yeah, I honestly see that more going to that route, and that's something I would personally prefer, just because is even though that Barriss hasn't quite taken those steps of the dark side that Yoda describes in episode 1, it kind of makes you think, will she go through those steps, or like will they go over where she's been throughout the time that she's been alive, how she may or may not have turned to the dark side.
Right. And again, we cannot stress enough, this is not fact we're talking here. This is rumor and us spitballing ideas. So take all of this with a grain of salt. But the question of let's end this video on one question. Should they include Barriss in this show? And I'll answer this question first. And I would say, at least for the sake of closure, yes, they should. Because there is still, that loose thread left over from the Clone Wars of, what happens to Barriss in Order 66. Like I said before, where is she during the time of the Empire, assuming she survives Order 66, and what would happen if she were to meet up with Ahsoka again? What do you think, Michael?
I do think that, assuming that they go with the route that I said, that ultimately there's going to be a rematch or like a fight between them two, because Barriss and Ahsoka fought each other before, not in the Geonosis, but they actually fought when Barriss was pretending to be Ventress after stealing both her lightsabers and her
forgot about
mask.
that.
And we have to remember, Ahsoka only had one lightsaber at the time, so she was somewhat disadvantaged just because she was fighting with two lightsabers forever, or at least for as long as she had them. So I believe that if we put the two together, kind of like how Disney stated that the Obi-Wan show will have the rematch of a century, referring to Obi-Wan and Vader.
Which that's a whole nother discussion right there.
Yeah. This should be no exception, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. So I think that's all very interesting things to think about. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to end up the video here. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, for Mando on Fire and myself, the Force is family. Thank you very much.
Thank you.